Welcome to Skin and Soul. I'm Gwenm Carsley, a transformational body, sex, and soul coach, and I'm inviting you on a bold, unfiltered journey into the heart of our humanity through the lens of Eros. This is where we strip away the shame, dive into the unspoken, and embrace the wild, raw truth of our desires. Together, we'll crack open the taboo, uncover our deepest intimacies, and awaken the pulse of our sexual essence. Because real transformation, it's messy, it's thrilling, and it's oh so delicious. Buckle up, loves. Skin and Soul Beyond the Pale starts in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Hello and welcome back. I'm Gwenm. I'm your host of Skin and Soul on Transformation Talk Radio. And I'm here again with part 2 with my conversation with Andrew Marshall, Embodying the Practice, being intimate with ayahuasca. So stepping into the mirror, being intimate with yourself, and taking the practice out into the world and into your relationships. And for those of you who might need a little bit of recap on who Andrew is, he's an incredibly beautiful, conscious man. He is a walker of the path. He's a healer, a coach, not just a coach, but a master coach for accelerated evolution, a 3rd degree jiu-jitsu black belt. He's also a facilitator for the medicine that we're going to be talking about today. He's a proud father, devoted husband, and I just want to say a conscious man is oh so sexy, and he works with men bringing discipline, purpose, heart, and spirituality, and works with men to raise their consciousness one-on-one or in retreats, work that is so needed. So, welcome back.
Thank you, Gwenm. Thank you for having me back. I was really excited that, it felt right for both of us, for me to come back. And thank you so much for that intro. That's like, I'm honored. Only one small clarification I'll make is we're going to connect about ayahuasca. I don't claim to be a direct facilitator of the medicine, but I do, I collaborate with trained facilitators and bring groups together to sit with it. And I still have a crumb in my throat here that I have to clear.
Amazing. Okay, so this is great because as someone who has stepped into the world of ayahuasca, and I have no experience with it whatsoever, so I'm completely green. I have, I think, a lot of fear around it, a whole lot of respect around it. I know and understand that its work is incredibly powerful. And just to launch in there of like what was your calling and what brought you into the realm of working with ayahuasca and in your own path.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to say is just thank you for the opportunity to talk about this, because I'm wanting more opportunities to share about this. And firstly, as I was feeling into it, I'm like, okay, really feeling the energy of the medicine, just as I was reflecting about coming on to this with you today. And it's something, like you said, it's something to have a real reverence and respect about. It's a profound medicine and a profound spirit. People that have worked with ayahuasca view it not only as this physical medicine, which it is, but also as there's a very conscious entity and spirit and master healer and master spiritual teacher that is this medicine. And I feel so grateful for just the massive impact that it's had on my life. So my goal in our conversation today is to do some justice to who and what ayahuasca truly is, and to just share my genuine experience with it and with her. Ayahuasca is also known as a divine, kind of an embodiment of the divine feminine healer, and just that powerful feminine force in nature that that can infuse our life with so much more consciousness, life force, healing, awakening, cleansing, all of it. And
yeah, and I just, because you said divine feminine, and I was actually wondering, because sometimes because I don't know it so well, is that she's referred to as the divine feminine. I've heard she's also got a pretty good whack and a good, she can bring fierceness, I think, to the experience, right?
very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah. In a great way. there's a regular saying that ayahuasca doesn't give you what you want, she gives you what you need.
Mm.
So you might go into a ceremony and there might be things that you think you want, and ultimately you're going to get what you need.
Yeah.
Which ideally, if you're open and receptive, it is going to be the deepest thing that you want. Your deepest healing, your deepest awakening, seeing your shit. And there's a lot of compassion. It's like you and I, what's fascinating is if we look at other, if we could say psychedelics or entheogenic medicines that could be held in a similar realm. You have psilocybin, LSD, things like that. Um, what's interesting about ayahuasca, and of course, more people taking just straight DMT now. Um, what's interesting about ayahuasca is there's such a greater diversity of possible experiences that can be had. If you and I were going to do a dose of mushrooms right now, say you and I we're going to take a few grams of mushrooms together. Yes, we're both going to have unique experiences because we're different people and there's different things that might come up for us. There's different lenses that we're looking through at the experience, but you can have a pretty steady expectation that we're going to have a similar psychedelic effect and a
Mm.
similar psychedelic intensity by taking that same dose of psilocybin.
Okay.
With ayahuasca, you and I, which usually this is exactly what happens, you and I could take the exact same dose from the exact same batch and have completely night and day experiences.
Okay.
You could have very little effect, and I could have like the most intense journey ever. You could be having this blissful, compassionate, beautiful experience that's nourishing your system. And I could be sitting next to you feeling like I have the flu and just like shaking and getting this whole detox process because that's what I need.
Now, is it a hallucinogenic? So I'm curious what it does to your body. So what was your first experience, if you remember it, and the first time you stepped into her wisdom?
I remember it really vividly. And it was around, I think it was October of 2010 in Central Oregon. I got the invitation and I had seen, this was back when YouTube was becoming more of a thing and there were kind of cool documentaries and people talking about this interesting medicine that makes you, kind of the things that get people's attention. It's like you drink this jungle medicine and it makes you puke and shit yourself, but you come out with like realizations of things. And for some reason, I thought that sounds cool. That sounds interesting. What's going on here? Um, and so I jumped at the opportunity and I was already kind of on my initial healing journey. And it was actually my first mentor and healer that I worked with recommended it for me. And I said, yeah, I've been hearing about this, reading about it, watching things about it. And so I went and did 3 nights in a row of ceremonies with a facilitator and a group in Central Oregon, near Bend, Oregon, out in the desert, in this really cool spot. And all three of the nights were very, very different in various ways, but they followed a similar theme for me. Again, because I think it's what I needed. I needed a combination of like a deep cleansing of
Mhm.
my system, along with sort of I'll just call it an awakening to a new level of awareness of myself, of my connection to nature, my connection to spirit. And so each night was a similar um, sort of flow for me where for the first half of most of the night, I felt really sick. Like I felt nauseous. I couldn't tell if I would get really cold and I would get really hot. And I'm like, this is interesting. Like I'm very aware that the temperature in the room's not fluctuating, but my body temperature is completely fluctuating. And I kind of just felt sick. I felt like a sick little kid and I was in this like motherly presence, and it was doctoring me.
Mm.
And I just had to sit with it. There was no getting away from it. There was no, I was just like in my blanket on my mat, just like sick and going through this detox process. And then after I just waded through it and I stayed present to the process, I would start to feel this subtle opening. And then the second half was more of this like uplifting energy. I was filled with more of a blissful, uplifting energy, had some psychedelic images, and you could just feel a lot of energy moving through my body, like my energetic channels were getting opened up. And I was very moved and inspired by this experience. And it was for the next few years, working with ayahuasca was one of my main focuses, one of my main disciplines. I went to Peru twice for two different month-long, 4-week long um, focused containers in the
Mhm.
Amazon jungle with a traditional ayahuasquero from the Shipibo tribe. And and that was amazing. I mean, 4 weeks, both of those 4 weeks, we probably did like 16 ceremonies throughout the 4 weeks. And then they also give you a whole nother other non-psychoactive plant medicines to work with and to cleanse your body and to help you open up spiritually. Because in their tradition, the plants are teachers. They're not just medicinal plants, they're teachers. They have a spirit, a consciousness, and different purposes and things that how they can help heal you, cleanse you, and then also teach you spiritual teachings and teachings of nature. So you're taking in the consciousness of these plants, not just the properties of the plants. And what they say is that ayahuasca is the door to the plant world.
Mm.
So they would do your opening ceremony to this whole container. I'm in this month-long container. I do an opening ceremony. It's to experience the ayahuasca ceremony itself, but also those ayahuasqueros would then do a chant to open my system to the wisdom of the other plant teachers that they're going to have me work with. So it's this really fascinating, it was this really fascinating experience um, to one be exposed to and then to dive deep into. And so now I haven't sat in ceremony super regularly in the past 5 years or so, but I think last year was the last time I sat. But it's been 15 years of still, once you really get in touch with the medicine, you develop a relationship. You don't have to sit in ceremony to be in contact. Like she's there.
Mm.
She's a part of me. She's a part of my daily practice and experience and one of my most profound spiritual teachers. And so with all that being said, what I can say is that it's been 15 years where I feel like I've had this deep, very interesting, very challenging in a good way relationship with this medicine.
Yeah, you were talking, and we were just when we were chatting, you said, "Oh, I became really intimate with ayahuasca, and that really it piqued my curiosity and what that means to you, which I'm getting a sense of like she's living in you still, and so that you're in relationship with her, and how that like how it shifted the mirror to yourself. So,
Yes.
who were you before the first experience, and you can speak to just even over this time, like yeah, what was like the initial hard shift, which was cleansing. Um, but yeah, so just around that.
I think one aspect of what I experienced the medicine really helping cleanse for my system was the residual effects of a lot of alcohol, a lot of opiates, and a lot of just shitty fast food that I just lived on. I grew up on, just poor nutrition, poor processed foods, a lot of sugar, a lot of soda, all this stuff. So I felt I was getting this deep, intense cleansing of my
Mm.
system, which was beautiful. And then um, there's also, I think, and you've probably experienced this, people experience this in other healing modalities as well, is there's a cleansing of your mind and your spirit
Mhm.
and your emotional body. So there's, all of my years of just frustration and anger and self-hatred and all these things would come up intensely in the ceremonies for me to process. Just like what we do in accelerated evolution, it's like, okay, close your eyes. I'm going to take you through a step-by-step process to feel all the layers associated with this anger or this pain or this
Mhm.
fear, right? And we're going to go deeper. You're going to face it fully, feel all of what's there, be totally present to it, work through it, and ideally come to the other side where you feel more free from that, or that feels healed, or that feels integrated. And I think just like our processes are very powerful and masterful at doing that for people, ayahuasca is very masterful at doing that. And I
Mhm.
think that I think that there's a lot of my effectiveness in facilitating the processes, I feel, is because of the work and the training I've received with ayahuasca.
Yeah, which then brings me to the importance of who's facilitating. And I'm sorry, I thought you were facilitating, but just like
Oh,
being in the
yeah.
experience, right? I had a good friend of mine who had an experience, which unfortunately was not a very good one. It wasn't, I think it was not handled very well, and
Yes.
walked away with an experience. And she said to me that she had actually gone to see an exorcist because she felt very deeply that an entity had attached itself to her. And depending on what you believe spiritually, all of these things, right? I imagine that it opens up realms of consciousness that we don't have access to unless we're doing the like. And there's other ways I know of like accessing these different states of being, but when it's under an influence or just even accessing those states, right, without having some form of proper initiation, containment, and yeah. So just how do you source out who is in your highest good, who has experience in doing this, and not just and I hesitate to say like in a Western way, right? But really can come to the medicine in a way that's authentic, profound, and understands it at a very real, visceral level.
Yeah, and what I hear you speaking to when you say, like in a Western way, is we can look at that there's a consistent tendency of what would be
Mhm.
referred to as Westerners as having a few experiences and saying, "Oh, I got this. I understand. Oh,
Mhm.
I can make some money at this. All right, let's go. Fill a room. I got you." With ayahuasca or with any powerful shamanic practice, whether it involves a medicine you take or not, requires years of dedicated training, years of, checking yourself and making sure you're really integrity with a certain level of power and capacity.
Yeah.
And ayahuasca requires, when I say that's why I sort of say it like I just wanted to state at the beginning in case anyone is listening to this that is familiar with this world, like I'm not sitting here claiming to be a facilitator. I'm sitting here claiming to be someone who's had 15 years of relationship with this medicine, but I have not yet gone through that sort of apprenticeship to actually be sitting and serving. I play a guardian role in the room, and when we do our retreats, or I bring, mainly groups of men together for these retreats, I always go to, there's a handful of trained facilitators that have been done very specific training with other master ayahuasqueros for years and received a specific initiation that goes along with that tradition because there's many different tribes and peoples who have facilitated with ayahuasca for thousands of years, and each one of them has a kind of a different way of doing things within their lineage. And it's all beautiful, it's just different ways and approaches. And so I make sure that anyone who I'm going to collaborate with is one, I feel just a good connection with them. And I have an understanding of the training that they've received. I understand that they are highly skilled and that they are people of sincerity and true integrity, and that they're only trying to serve, people in their best and highest good and their interest, and there's no other kind of motives or issues or drama that's associated with them and how they facilitate. So it's a very real thing, like what your friend described.
Mhm.
You're not just helping people heal, you're also navigating the energetic and spiritual world that's connected, like in the space and connected to each individual that's in the room. And so if a person's serving medicine, but they're not really trained in how to hold the space, protect the space, deal with spiritual entities, then that is one of the risks that you're taking when you go into a deep space with ayahuasca, is you're opening yourself up to different realms of reality. You could be in a room with a very good facilitator and something can still happen, but the better the person is, the more rare it is. And if something like that is happening, that really good experienced facilitator is going to recognize it and knows exactly how to work with it in that time, right? So, yeah.
So what are some of the, like when you talked about being intimate, so what are some of the intimate revelations that you can, if you don't mind sharing, just like within yourself that that in facing the mirror, because facing the mirror is really difficult at the best of times, right? That's what we do throughout our lives, is we avoid our shadows at all cost. And yet, we want to get to the other side. We talk about, like, we want that goal over there. But we have this thing in the middle that's either oftentimes unseen, unnoticed, doesn't want to be felt. And so getting from here to there is really being able to sit in the experience of that middle space. And so what do you think for you has been some of the most intimate places, like where you got to sit with yourself and we're like, oh, aha, so that you are this person sitting here in front of me, being able to
Yeah, I think
contact.
there's a lot of different experiences, but to sort of go off of the main thing I hear you talking about is whenever we engage with any kind of really focused path and a powerful methodology or process that really puts a mirror to ourselves, it can be painful and it can be hard to face. And but if we're willing to, it develops a depth of humility and wisdom, right? And the ability to be more intimate with ourselves and others, be more real, be more compassionate, and be stronger individuals. And so I can think of a few times, like there was one time I sat um, in a ceremony with this just beautiful man who is from, I'm not going to reference his name just because could be fine, but just I feel like out of respect, I'm just not going to say his name. But he's from a tribe of people in Ecuador, and he didn't know how old he was because they didn't record exactly when people were born.
Mm-hmm.
But he was born in Ecuador. He's still alive now. I would guess he's got to be in his 70s at this point. And I sat with him probably 10, 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he barely spoke English, mostly Spanish and his native language. And he was born before money was introduced to his
Oh,
people,
wow.
right? So his tribe was completely untouched by outside presences. It was within his lifetime that we'd say Western presence came in
Mhm.
and influenced his people. So it was really amazing to sit with him. Such a pure heart, And I remember just, like you say, getting a mirror to myself and just seeing the level of arrogance that I had been living with.
Mm,
And it was shockingly painful. I was probably in my mid 20s. I was in my mid 20s at this point. And I just like, and it wasn't like I was sitting there with some habit of beating myself up. It was like I was just shown, I think it was mine. And then I think it was also a cultural thing that I was being shown, like a level of arrogance and lack of awareness. And just like all these, showing me all these times that I had just been a jackass, and just
mm,
flashing, flashing, flashing. And I remember for about 11 days after that, I almost felt like I was schizophrenic. Like my mind was just like trying to grapple with reality.
mm,
And I would sit there in moments and I would be with someone and I'd start laughing spontaneously because there was so much pressure building inside of me. And they're like, what do you, I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm going through it right now. Like, I'm just feeling a lot. And then
mm.
after 11 days, it was like I just popped out of it.
Well, then I wonder, okay, so I just have to stop because I mean, for me, I'm like, flags. And because, when I was first introduced to ayahuasca, and I'm going to say like a long time ago, I have never done it, but just even the concept of, it was always talking about doing it once or twice, like you said, it's kind of like, oh yeah, aha, I get it. But to me, it was introduced as, oh, you do it once or twice, maybe three times in your lifetime. And then it wasn't too long ago, maybe a few years ago, that I met a girl who had also um, done ayahuasca like regularly, right? Was just using it. And so I think, and it was a friend of mine who wanted me to ask you today, which was, what is the better path of like going, doing it once or twice and then, or doing this like 6-day retreat or this month retreat? And I think I know the answer. But at what point does, and maybe it doesn't, is the medicine the crutch? Like, or does that, or is that even in question?
I love the questions that you're bringing because these are all points that I want to touch on. And what I'll say real briefly, just to complete what I was just sharing before, I didn't have a bunch of processes like that. That was just a particular intense one of like getting that mirror and processing it deeply, But I've had many, many experiences that were just um, really humbling
Mm,
in working with this medicine and in ways that I didn't really know right away. Like I would have to, they say that the real work starts after ceremony. It's like going through the ceremony is like doing a marathon of this deep journey process, but then the real work happens afterwards. When you go back into your life, you have to integrate the awareness, the shifts. You have to really take the time to sincerely make sense of what you just experienced. And if you have other practices in your life, regular spiritual disciplines, it makes it much easier to do that. And if you have other coaches or mentors or healers in your life that you meet with, makes it more effective and easier to do that. For frequency, um, like over the 15 years, I think I've sat in probably 80 some ceremonies. And another one of the core lessons that I feel I received from ayahuasca, and actually from tobacco as well, that's a whole nother, it's kind of another thread, but tobacco is known as one of the greatest plant teachers in many indigenous traditions. Tobacco is known as powerful medicine and plant and teacher. And what I felt ayahuasca and tobacco both taught me a lot about was how to be in right relationship and what the difference is between using and being in relationship with. And so if you're listening, if you're really listening to the medicine and you're clarifying things within yourself so you can really listen and feel, have a good barometer within yourself, then you'll be able to gauge how to be in right relationship with ayahuasca.
Mm.
For some, it might be like I sat with it once, had a great experience, which I had some good brothers of mine in our earlier 20s. That was their experience. They sat with it. Some came with me. They were interested. I said, "Hey, you can come to the ceremony with me." They came one time. They had a great experience. They've never sat again. They were good. They were
They're
just
good. They're
clean.
like, that was good. Don't need to see anything else. Don't
Yeah.
need to face anything. She just showed me the good stuff. I'm good.
But
That's
I
yeah.
have one brother in particular. He sat once. He had a very positive experience. And he just felt like he got what he came for.
Mm.
And there was nothing within him saying like, should I do it again? Do I want to do it again? Do I want to go for another ride? Do I want to? He was just like, that was perfect. Thank you.
Mm.
And it felt right for him. For me, I continued to sit. I went to Peru. I did all these sits. It felt like part of my path. And I felt like there were deeper lessons I was meant to be learning by continuing to work with this medicine. And I do feel like I'm in balance with it because then I would go through intensive times of working with the medicine and then 3 years of not sitting once. And then I'd be like, oh, it's time.
Yeah.
And then I'd go and I'd have these intensive times and then another year might go. I'm like, oh, I'm good. I just have this feeling, this clear sense of when it's time, when it's not, when I've had enough. Oh, like a year and a half ago was the last time I sat, and I just feel like, okay, I got a lot to work with from that. I'm good. I don't, and I'm actually feeling now that in our retreat, in our Big Island Men's Retreat in 2026, I'm feeling that it might be time to bring the medicine back in for that experience. And I'm just slow. There's no need to make a quick decision on it. I'm just slowly sitting with that feeling and that energy. I'm like, is it time to bring that back in for myself and for all the men that come? Maybe,
Yeah. And
so
I think
that's
it
how
is.
you know if there's this compulsive, like, I need to keep going back. I need to keep
Yeah.
going back. I need more. I need more. We got to look at that. We got to check that within ourselves. And a way we can check is like, is my life changing? Are
Hmm.
these things that I struggled with before, are these habits that I know aren't good for me, am I still doing them? So I've sat in 10 ceremonies, but I'm still doing the same bad habits as when I started. Okay, something's not adding up here. I don't need to go sit in another ceremony. I need to actually sit right here and get real with myself right now.
Yeah. And also chasing the healing, like when I say chasing the healing path, right? That there's always something to fix in a moment instead of, like you said, staying with something for a moment and not
Yeah.
needing the next the next hit of, oh, okay, I got it, move, to
Yeah.
be able to stay embodied with it. Yeah.
And then the challenge on one end might be some people, maybe they sat a few times and it was too hard but it would be beneficial for them to get the right support and to come back to work on some deeper things. Because
Mm.
sometimes if we have really deep traumas, that can be really hard to face, not from a like you need to be stronger perspective, but like, yeah, it's understandable that that's really hard to face. But if we trust the medicine and we're with a good facilitator, that's actually going to be worked with in the most compassionate, supportive way within the ceremony, if you can allow it. There might be some people, and I know I know some people that do this as well, is where they just keep going back to sit more, sit more, sit more, sit more, because they think they need to, or there's some kind of, uh, I don't know, some kind of hit or high they get from it. They feel like they're doing something, but it's actually a distraction from doing the deeper work. And so that's why, yeah, we have to be really diligent in tuning in and checking that. Is that a clear yes? Is it time right now? Is it a no right now? It's like, I feel like I really want to. It would be so cool. I don't want to miss out. But you know what? I think it's not time right now.
Mm.
you know.
So how do you feel that the medicine has you show up in the world differently? Like, how do you love differently? How do you show up in your relationship differently? And how do you show up in intimacy, if at all, like in all of these areas in your life, in your daily practice?
Yeah, I can think of like a general response, and I'm just thinking if there's anything more specific I can share. Because like the general is just like
Mhm.
being more in tune with myself, and say in tune with my wife, in tune with my son, being able to feel what's going on within them.
Okay, so to get more specific, because I'm going to bring back last week's conversation when we started to talk about like the things we don't say, right?
Mm.
Which again are those mirrors within ourselves that are hard to be with, and certainly to bring them out with another person, which is like the ultimate challenge. Once you've dealt with it with yourself, is okay. Being in the room with family, I always say, is like one of the greatest challenges. It's with the people that
Mhm.
you love the most that everything is tested. So how, when something difficult comes up, let's say that those conversations that don't want to be talked about, the hard stuff, how do you find that I want to say the training ground of the medicine, um, and then bringing that into practice, like how do you feel that shift and bringing that into love in all of those areas?
It's allowed me to just sit and be present with a full range of feelings and emotions,
Mm.
rather than feeling like there's any kind of inner deflection within myself or pushing away of things. It's just like I can feel the full spectrum of what's arising in myself and the other, and be with it.
And be with it, yeah, and
Have the
not run away from it.
capacity
Yeah.
to like, okay, stay,
Mhm.
stay in it. Because really the ceremony is a microcosm for the macrocosm of the ceremony of life. We're in the great ceremony of life right now.
Mhm.
If I took okay, I'm gonna go do one night of ceremony that's 6 or 7 hours, right? There's that, and there's that journey. But what about the ceremony from the moment I was born to the moment that I die?
Mhm.
Do I have the strength and capacity to just stay in this whole experience? The shitty, hard moments and the beautiful, amazing moments? Can I just be present in it, ride it, work with it, learn from it? Like I think ayahuasca is trying to help us live well in a deeply connected way, connected to nature, connected to spirit, connected to our bodies, be able to just smile when we see our loved ones.
Mm. Yeah, so I'm going to ask you, like in watching, being part of 80, you said about 80
Yeah,
ceremonies,
I think 80 something.
and witnessing how many people are going through that transformation of staying in the body. Because like I just, listening to you, my whole body goes into visceral panic, because like I mean my body is wired for panic and anxiety, and I think that's part of my curiosity of how what the medicine, sitting in the body and talking about that, being with the journey, and how easy it is, right, on a daily basis to constantly be in a future space, right, whether it's a future goal or the past, or even just taking a moment to think about like 5 minutes from now or in an hour from now, instead of being in this capacity of just being in this now. And so watching 80 ceremonies, have you ever, yeah, I'm not even sure what my question is, but I'm just like in the curiosity of like all of these people that show up to be in their bodies, um, what your general sense is of how they walk away afterwards. And I know it's like that's a massive question, but kind of just in the experience. Does that make any sense? I think I'm like,
In a general sense, I think people, yeah, generally people are walking away more connected. If it
mhm,
was good, if it was a well-held ceremony, if the person was really supported with what they needed, they're walking away more connected, more like in their body, a little more slowed down. There's a release of less weight from the past that's being carried. There's a deeper compassionate understanding for their journey or maybe the journeys of others close to them.
Mm.
There's this just like slowed down feeling of like really being with what's most important in life. I would
And-
say an imbalance that can happen is people
mm,
being a little more out of their bodies, a little more spacey, a little less in touch with um, like a groundedness that allows them to be present in their lives and do structured tasks and like be on top of things. That's where you start to feel an imbalance happening, which can happen for a whole variety of reasons. And yeah.
So, have you ever done this with your wife? Like, has your wife participated in
So
ceremony? Has she done it with you? No?
so um I would say that like what you were describing about your kind of composition or what you one of the things ways you're kind of wired for, right?
Mhm.
She's very similar. I think you and her can sit down with each other and like just resonate and be like very similar and have a wonderful connection, but have this similar challenges with maybe anxiety or like an intensity in the body in that way, right? So she's always felt clearly that it's not the right medicine for her. She's been around it. We have close friends who make it.
Mm.
We've been with them around it. Like all the time, she's been around it a lot. And she's just always felt this clear sense within herself of like, yeah, it doesn't feel like it's right for me.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it. And there's been times where I've encouraged her to come with me because I felt like that would be really valuable in a lot of ways. But she's stood her ground on saying it doesn't feel like it's the right thing for her. And I respect that. And I think it's great that she feels clear about that, right?
Mm.
So not every medicine is right for everybody, right? And I think that's another piece of discernment for us to tune into whether we can gain that clarity through trial and error, in a sense, through trying different, do a psilocybin journey, do an ayahuasca journey, and of course, do all of these things in responsible and supportive ways, get support for them. Um, or Wachuma is a beautiful medicine that is now one of the main medicines that I work with and deeply appreciate. It's a cactus from South America. Um, it's known more as the divine, like masculine.
I was going to say, is it masculine or, yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
ayahuasca will be referred to commonly as grandmother. Huachuma or San Pedro will be referred to more commonly as the grandfather medicine. And so if you just think about if you had a master grandmother healer, come into the room and how she might work with you, and a master grandfather healer teacher come into the room, how he might interact with you. They'll both get you to similar places, but there's a very different feel and a very different experience.
And I
Um,
understood that what Shuma was more, I want to say gentle, or maybe I have it backwards, that
I
it
think
can
that's
be more
common.
gentle.
Yeah,
That's common.
totally.
So, and that's interesting for me that the masculine energy would be more gentle than the feminine. But again, I think we underestimate the power of the feminine and how, yes, she can be nurturing, she can be beautiful, loving, tender, kind, all of these things. And she can also whack you one into the center, right back into the center of the cosmos.
She'll also completely rip you to the
Yeah.
core if that's what you
Yeah.
need to experience. And the grandfather is a little more like, let's talk about it. Yeah, you're having a hard time with that? Tell me more about it. You're gonna be okay. Check out that flower over there. It's beautiful, huh? Yeah. What else do you want to talk about? I'm right here with you.
I love that. I think I'd rather meet the grandfather.
And then where the grandfather can come unstrong is like, look, you're repeating the same shit over and over again. I love you. I know you can do this. Stop messing around. Get off your ass. Let's go.
Mm.
Whereas we could see that the feminine kind of like, and I don't, claim to have like a deep, intimate understanding of Kali, and I know that Kali from Hindu mythology can get misrepresented in the West. But my sense, just that ripping, like no bullshit, just like
Hmm.
rip, like there's that in ayahuasca.
Yeah, there's that like you're gonna die in order to be reborn, and
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's a I'm gonna say ego death in a like and so how many ego deaths do you think you've encountered thus far?
So many that I am now the most humble person that I know.
Mhm. Beautiful.
Sorry,
That's
that's my
yeah.
dumb dad joke for the day. Um, but I don't know, um, I feel really grateful to have
Mhm.
had the uh, profoundly healing and renewing experiences
Mhm.
that I've had, and it's just a constant process. I mean, I could say I still feel like the medicine's working on me right now, you know? And then, we get into words, and words are naturally dualistic, right? I mean, it's the medicine, it's spirit, it's all the same thing. It's
Mhm.
God. I'm just that medicine is one powerful modality that's on this earth. That if it feels like a right fit for you, you feel like you have this pull. You're just like, I gotta experience this. Like, I need help with this. And that feels like that's something like that's just pulling to me. It keeps coming up that that might be for you. And what happens, I see this time and time again, is that it just shows up. Like the opportunity just shows up for people. Like it happened for me. It's like I've just been watching about this. I have no idea who or how I'd get in contact with someone. And then the woman I'm working with just brings it up to me, you
Mm.
know? And now I've witnessed that where I bring it, it comes up in conversation when I'm talking to people and they're like, man, I've been hearing about that and thinking about that. And it's amazing that we're talking about it right now. Like, well, there's a synchronicity that happens when it's right for people to engage with this medicine.
Do you bring it up in your practice? So, like when you, I have a couple of questions for you, which is one, in working with men, why do you think it's so difficult for them to step into their truth and embodiment? And two, is it something that you offer, talk about a lot with your men, with the men that you work with, or is it selective? Like when you hear a calling, you hear someone calling for something specific, or is it, or is it a conversation that you just feel like it's really easy to have?
It flows, it comes up when it's meant to come up. I think most of the men that end up coming to me and I work with, I don't even talk to them about it. Not because I'm trying not to or I'm trying to. I'm not. It just if it feels like that's a thing based on something they say, based on something I'm observing, if it feels like that would be a supportive route for them, then I'll talk to them about it. But it's really just feeling it out, uh,
Okay.
you know, with each person.
So I'm just aware of time. So I want to ask you if there was one thing that you can that one truth that you would say to the men that you were before the medicine, before you took the medicine, what would you say?
The first thing that comes up is just like out
Mm,
of touch, out of touch with myself, out of touch with the feminine, out of touch with nature, out of touch with my true spiritual relationship and experience, out really out of touch with my body.
mm,
And now the inverse is in touch. I feel clear. I
yeah.
know what to eat, how much water to drink every day, the supplements that feel good for me, the tea that feels right for me in the moment, when to sit in a ceremony, when to do what. Like I don't have to spend mental energy thinking about what's right for me each day. I just feel it.
Beautiful. And one last question before we wrap up is, so for anybody listening, what's one question that they should ask themselves before seeking the medicine or before asking for real intimacy with themselves?
Mm. I'll take those as two. I want to do two answers there, which maybe they'll merge. But in seeking out the medicine, if you have an interest in it, first ask yourself, is this beneficial for me? And just really sit with an openness to that answer. Or would this be beneficial for me? And it's like you're just kind of asking an internal question. Would this be beneficial for me? And if you can slow down and listen, you'll get a clear yes or no. It's like, so that's the first question. Would this be beneficial for me? Let's say you get a yes, of course, it'd be beneficial for me. Okay. And then just ask yourself, is it the right time? Like, do I really want to move forward with this? Do I really want to invest in this? And you think, okay, well, just start talking to people, start reaching out to a friend who might know
Or
something.
to you?
Reach out to me. I mean, you listen to this, reach out to me. So reach out. So ask, is this beneficial? Check in. Is this something you really want to do? And then reach out to make the right connections for just intimacy in your life and tuning in your life. I mean, um, there may be different, it's an issue of semantics. There may be different ways that other people would word what they're really wanting, but ultimately the core of what we're talking about is you want that. So then the next step is like just being on the journey to figure out what the right path is for you, for what it means to get in touch with yourself, with life, your spiritual journey, your freedom and your happiness and your fulfillment in life. We all have different paths and different medicines that are really right for us and that are actually like a match for our blueprint of who we are. And so you just got to go on the journey of figuring that out. Start connecting with people, start looking things up, start trying different things out. Go to a yoga class, go to a qigong class. Does yoga resonate more? Does qigong resonate more? Does ayahuasca resonate more? Does San Pedro resonate more? Does psilocybin resonate more? Does meditation, does Buddhism or Hindu, like
Yeah,
go
the
on the
path is
journey.
vast. And I think I just asked for it, and I know I'm getting the beacon of like, it's time to wrap up. So, and why I brought up like, before asking for real intimacy is because again, it's like the goal. It's like it's the desire on the other end. It's like, oh yes, I want this. And am I in a space where I can actually receive it? And that's always my question. Are you in a space where you can actually start to be present with it? Anyway, we have to wrap up this amazing, beautiful conversation. So thank you again for joining me. You can reach Andrew at embodythepractice.com. Is there any last words quickly before we go and we get shut down and lights go out?
When you get on the journey, and you say, when we start opening up on our journey, it's not like we have to swallow the elephant in one bite. So that's the key thing to remember. You just got to start somewhere, and consistency is the key. So start somewhere, start looking into things, start making some connections, start looking up meditation videos on YouTube. You got to start somewhere, start bit by bit, get support, keep building, stay consistent, and you'll be surprised at how far you'll come in the next phase of life and how much you'll grow.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you. Thank you. And finally, I'm just going to say goodnight. If you want to know more about what I do, you can go to gwenmcarsley.com. Thank you for joining me today, this evening, this morning, wherever you are in the world. Good night. Thank you for listening to Skin and Soul with me, Gwenm. Join me Fridays at 10 a.m. PST on Transformation Talk Radio. Catch the podcast anytime on your favorite platforms. You can follow me on Instagram @Luvology. Ready to take the next step? book a compatibility call with me at gwenmcarsley.com.